Hi everyone, this is Emily. This is my current reading pile. I am here today to talk to you about how many books you should be reading at once and how can you read more, get more books read by the end of the month, and how many books should you be reading at once. And the best way I can do that is to tell you what I do and how I do it and go from there. So bottom line, I'm generally reading 6 books at a time. I know you're probably cringing or you're trying to figure that out or thinking it's too much or there's something wrong with me. I've seen many booktubers on here apologizing for themselves, thinking there's something wrong with them because they're reading multiple books at once. I want you to know that it's completely normal, especially for people who have varied interests, shorter attention spans, they're book fanatics. In my experience, if I force myself to read only one book at a time, I get impatient. I get impatient to finish it because I'm always eager to start new books. And the most exciting thing to me about all the books I see piled on my shelves or my TBR tables or when I go to bookstores, the most exciting thing to me is starting out a new book, like getting a feel for it. What's it going to read like? What's the language going to be like? It's the unknown. It's a new author. What's the world going to be like? It's like a drug almost, the lure and the excitement of getting to start a new book. And I find that if I only stick to one book at a time, it feels like it takes forever to finish it, for one. Sometimes all books have slow parts. I find that I start to phase out or daydream, or I get too impatient to try out other books. And so if I don't allow myself a system to be reading multiple books at once, for variety, so I can flip back and forth to keep my interest up, to get through the slow parts, then I don't read nearly as much. And on top of that, I really find I read way more this way. So this is the pile of what I'm currently reading. So I'm always reading one book at a time on my Kindle Oasis, my cute little books are little Kindle Oasis I got just for Christmas. Finishing the Enchanted Sonata right now. So I'm usually reading one book on Kindle Unlimited at a time, just for variety, because I can read some that I don't own, and I can read in bed at night and this lights up. I don't have to have a flashlight and my phone flashlight trying to read, my other books. So I'm always reading one book on here. The kicker is if I really love the book, I end up wanting to buy it for my collection. So that's what I did with the Enchanted Sonata. So otherwise I'm reading usually 5 paperbacks at a time. Now, granted, I'm not reading all giant novels at once. So if you're trying to knock out Little Women, War and Peace, or City of Brass, or The Wheel of Time first book, reading that with 6 other books at once is going to take longer. You can still do it. Now, I probably finish a lot of 5 books about every 10 to 12 days. And I read about 2 hours a day. And I'm fortunate enough to have a schedule where I can break that up. So I have a system where I read 20 minutes at a time per day in each of my books. And I have the Bookly app. And in the Bookly app, I have categorized books I want to read, books I have read, books I'm reading now. And every time I sit down with a reading session, I open my phone, I open the Bookly app, I choose the book I want to read. Let's say it's Ice Fields, which I'm currently reading, which I'll talk about in a minute. Open that up, buy the cover photo, start reading session, and it times me. And I read for 20 minutes. And along the way, there's a button for add quotes, add thoughts. I add whatever I think about the book. And then I'll either go do something and come back, or if I feel like I can still read some more, I'll pick up the next book and I'll pick that book, go to the timer, start 20 minutes on the timer on the Bookly app. And also the Bookly app records your reading, the time you read, page number you started on, page number you stopped. By the end of the year, you can see the thousands of hours you read. It's really brilliant. I love that app. But, so I might knock out 2 at once, and I'll go do something. So generally what I do is I'll read one first thing in the morning when I get up for 20 minutes, knock that one out. Then I'll just do that right when I get up. Then I'll go have my breakfast and my coffee and whatever, do some things. Maybe 2 hours later, after I do whatever I'm going to do, I'll sit down for 20 minutes. I'll sit down with another book. Then, go do some more stuff, have lunch. I might be making videos for hours. I might be doing errands or chores, working on editing one of my clients' manuscripts. Then I'll sit down on my break. I'll read another 20 minutes. And then always at night, I probably read 40 minutes, 2 back to back. And so by the end of the day, I've read in all 6 of my books. And after about, if you can read about I don't know how many, it depends on the book. If you can read about, in 20 minutes, you can probably read about 30 pages, maybe 20 to 30, depending on the book. So if you're saying, let's say you read 30 pages a day and for 20 minutes, in a book after, 10 days, that's 300-page book right there, or 12 days, that's about 360 pages, the average book length. So it really is very doable. But I vary the books. I'll read some children's literature, different kinds of books at once. So I have a nice variety that keeps my attention going. So I'm reading Ice Fields by Thomas Wharton. And this book is amazing. This is about a man who, and a group of people exploring in the Arctic, and exploring the ice fields basically for science purposes, and a man who falls into a crevice into an icicle and sees something there, and he spends the rest of his life trying to get back to study it and find that thing again. So I'll talk about that more when I finish it. It's a really unique, really interesting writing style that I've never seen before. So I'm reading that. I am also reading one that I am in love with. It's so good. Can't wait to talk about this book. It is Spinning Silver by Naomi Novik. This is my first adult fantasy of this style ever, I think. And oh my God, I'm so in love with it. I just started like 3 days ago. You see how much I've read. So this one, though, is a bigger book, right? It's 460 pages. So if I want to read this book in 10 days, I have to read 46 pages a day. So, and it takes me about 38 minutes to read 46 pages. I timed it last night. So I might save this one for nighttime and do all the other little 20-minute bouts ones during the day. And I'll read a little longer on this one if I want to stick to my reading times and goals. So basically you have to figure out, how many books you want to read at once, how much time you can read in a day, how many books you want to read per month. And so you have to take the books and see how many pages there are. Let's say you want to finish all 3 of your books or 5 of your books in 10 days. You have to divide the total page number of each book on a piece of paper by 10 days. So you know how many pages you have to read per day in that book, and set those reading goals and accomplish it. So anyway, this is the longer one that I'm reading. I'm also reading the Sea Crow Island by Astrid Lindgren, which I've gotten this far into, which is the author Pippi Longstocking. This is a beautiful book. Very charming, very advanced writing for a children's book. This is by the New York Children's Review collection. It's a kind of vintage. This is a translated version from Swedish. So all about this beautiful summer island and just gorgeous like nature descriptions and narrative writing from a teenage girl who's kind of the mother figure for her 2 younger brothers, and their mother's dead, and their father's kind of a flighty, whimsical nut job. Kind of reminds me of Martin Short in Bug's Life or something like that. But so this is a good book, so I'm reading that. And the writing in this is, it's pretty complex. It's full on novel length reading. And then I'm also reading for children's literature, middle grade, The Clockwork Crow, because right now I'm trying to read mostly winter books. This is a magical fantasy book. I just started. It's by Catherine Fisher. Can't tell you much more about it, but I'll read the back. When orphaned, Serena Rice boards a train to Wales. The only magic she hopes to find is that of a family. But when a mysterious package contains a bad-tempered clockwork crow ends up in her care, Serene realizes that nothing at Plias Fron will be quite as she'd hoped. Thomas, her guardian son, is nowhere to be found, and the few servants who now keep the empty manor house running whisper tales of the fair family, or the Fae, who take children from what was once their land. With the clockwork crow at her side, Serene must rescue Tomas and reunite her new family before the Fae keeps her trapped in their chilling magical world forever. So just the cover of this one pulled me in. So we'll see. I don't know. I just read the first 20 minutes today. So far, it's intriguing. Lastly, I am also reading Midnight in Everwood by M.A. Kutznyar. This is another adult retelling of The Nutcracker because I'm on a Nutcracker kick. I just finished well, I'm sorry. I have like 3 pages. I had to cut, right, the last chapter I had to stop reading this morning of the Enchanted Sonata, which might be one of my newest favorite books. which is the most beautiful adult retelling of the Nutcracker put into a novel that I ever read. So much that I had to go buy the actual book, which I did receive in the mail, which I have now, but I'm finishing it on the iPad and the Kindle free because that's where I started it. But anyway, so this is a different adult retelling of the Nutcracker, Midnight Everwood, which I'm reading. And I'm also, after this, going to read the original Nutcracker by Alexandre Dumas to kind of compare the retellings. I didn't get a chance in December to read these, and they're really not even really Christmas books. I mean, okay, the Nutcracker we associate with Christmas because Clara on Christmas Eve is at a Christmas Eve party when she opens the package with a Nutcracker in it. These two, the adult retelling so far don't really, there's one mention of Christmas, like that's the time of year it is, but the book is not Christmassy at all. There's nothing about Christmas in any of it. It just reads like a fantasy, like a magical fantasy. And the Enchanted Sonata, such a gorgeous book. Oh, it's so beautiful. It's so beautiful. I cannot say enough good about it. I can't wait to do that review. But this one, Midnight Everwood, we'll see. So, I'm going to be reading all of the different Nutcracker versions, and then I might just do brief reviews and save up next December and do like a mega comparison of all the different books. So that is it. I'm reading 5 at once. So you can see they're not like mega novels. If I was doing a mega novel, like the first Wheel of Time book or Gone with the Wind, I might just be reading 2 smaller ones. So generally I like to balance it out. I'll have one big one and then a few smaller ones, and then maybe a really thin one I can get through quicker. And that's what keeps me reading. I probably read about 10 books a month, sometimes between 8 and 12. 8 and 12, 10 on average. It really just depends. And so, you know, that's just my style. I find that I have to have the constant ability I have to have options when I'm reading, you know, and I've never been reading multiple books and never finish them. Like, I don't just start books and not stop. I choose the ones I want to read multiple at a time. And, you know, if I finish one of them or 2 of them in that batch of 6, I'll start another 1 or 2 while I'm still finishing the others. That's kind of how I do it. So I think you can read as many books at a time as you want. I would say give it a try. Now, if you have like 12 on your shelf or on your bedside stand, and you're finding that some of them have been sitting there for 3-4 weeks, a month, 3 months that you haven't finished reading, and the bookmark is stuff halfway through, you're not really reading it. So to be reading several books at once, you have to be reading a little bit probably every day or every other day, or be currently actually reading it. Not like I started and stopped, but it's sitting there in my pile, and the last time I picked it up was 3 months ago, but I'm still reading it. So not the same thing. I am guilty of that. I did that with one book, which is ironically Gone with the Wind. It's just like so long, and I mean, it's like my goal to get through this long, one of the longest novels in history. But it's just the Civil War stuff gets me on a depressing side sometimes. Well, so I would say give it a try. Don't go more than 5. If you, you know, I'm skilled in multitasking because I do, you know, a lot of freelance work. I'll be working on a lot of projects at once for clients. I'll be editing many different manuscripts for different clients, for indie authors, reading books, doing book reviews, working on, you know, PhD, whatever I'm doing. So it's like I'm used to all these multitasking, fast, you know, moving mind. But if you're more of the slow type and you do get bored with books more often, maybe just go up to like doing 3 at a time and just set like you want to read 20 to 30 minutes per book per day. And if you work full time, try reading one when you get up in the morning, either with your coffee and breakfast or before. Take one to read at lunch when you're in your car. Go out and sit in your car at lunch and read, or in the cafeteria where you won't be disturbed. Maybe read a little on your breaks, or you can read, depends on who you live with, you know, if you have kids, as soon as they go to bed, read at night. But I have a system and a schedule where I read. I don't just wait until I have a chance to pick up the book, because then there'll always be something else to do. Like, it has to be a priority. It has to be something that's as routine in my day as like things like brushing my teeth and stuff like that. So anyway, that's what I recommend. I hope it works for you, and I will definitely give you the reviews of these books. How many books are you reading at once, and do you find that you always finish them? How much do you read per day as far as minutes, and do you break up your reading, or do you just sit down and read long periods of time at once? That's one thing I don't like to do. I start to my eyes start to hurt, and if I read more than 30 minutes, I start getting antsy. I need to walk around, go make a cappuccino, or get some cookies or something, like or find something else to do. All right, well, thanks everybody, and I'll see you in another video.